Hi and welcome back to the show, and I'm with Andrew Stewart, who's a freelance personal banker. Is that
business banker, freelance business banker.
Business banker, got to get that right. Interesting you say business, and we're having a bit of a chat off air, and both of us has bought and sold businesses, and I know as part of business banking, that's one of the huge things that does happen with a business. People build them up to either sell to siblings or sell to another person or buy a business. And I thought that is an interesting world to explore, because a lot of business owners are probably going, can I do it?
Yeah. So I suppose you've outlined the three ways in which people will be, instances that they'll find themselves buying a business. They'll be, it'll be part of a succession plan where they're buying it from their parents or their family.
Yeah.
They'll be going out and buying another business that's already going unrelated to them off the shelf, as it were, or something in between.
Yeah, or a mixture of all three.
Correct.
Yeah. You've had it, we've both bought and sold businesses. When you're buying a business, what do you think some of the challenges or some of the considerations have to be made when you're going down this path? And obviously from your experience, it's going to be broader than just talking to someone who can get you some money. You've actually got other aspects.
Well, let's just say that if it was someone coming into business for the first time, then they really probably need to have two strong relationships in place or established as they go through that process. The first of those would be an accountant, and not just a regular tax accountant, but an accountant that is experienced in small business. Because those guys have a really clear understanding of depreciation schedules, tax regimes, and critically, how to help structure the deal in favour of one or other of the parties. And the second is a finance broker, because the banks don't necessarily have an appetite for this kind of transaction, and so we're tending to have to use a range of different products from a number of different finance sources to get a business purchased.
So, we know with the accountant side, and I think from my perspective, when I bought and sold businesses before, I probably never looked at the finance person as in detail that I should have. Probably not got looked after quite as well, and not because of their fault. It's just that now when talking to you, you're really one of the measures of your finance person who's going to try and put this deal together because of the different products now available. You really want to have someone who's had their own business, maybe bought and sold a business. So, because there's knowledge in there you just don't pick up just from reading products, isn't there?
It's very true. So a lot of the banks, or the relationship managers in the banks, God bless them, they're good at their jobs, but their job isn't necessarily buying and selling businesses.
No.
So they know their products, they don't know everybody else's. It might seem the first port of call that where one would go to get the funding to buy a business, but actually there's probably a better way to strategize it. And so getting the accountant and the finance broker working hand in glove will really achieve a better outcome for the purchaser. And but also possibly for the vendor. Right. Well, the accountant will be able to identify perhaps where there's advantages for the vendor to sell in a slightly different transaction mode than the one that is initially presented, perhaps by on a straight up cash basis, for instance. They might find that there's advantages for them to structure the deal that help advantages both the buyer and the seller.
Because I remember when I was selling mine, we had a construction company at the time. This is one that we sold, and it was really interesting. And you know the gentleman that we're talking about, the business brokers that came in, that was helping us. You have a relationship with these gentlemen as well. And it was really interesting because they started to break my business into actually what it was. They were looking at, well, where's all your stock? Where's your wages? Where's your wages? Meaning me and the wife. And where are these add backs? And what are they actually buying? And they really wanted to get a complete overall picture, not just, well, it turns over X amount, it made X amount of profit, therefore that's will be the sale. They went, well, that's starting point. They wanted to know what stock was on hand, what agreements were in place. They asked me a whole range of business-orientated questions to get a whole picture.
And all that information broken down like that is actually what I tend to have to use or analyse when I'm finding the optimum finance solution.
Yeah.
Because each one of those components, whether it be wages, stock, plant and equipment, property, they'll all have different optimal modes of finance.
Yeah.
And it's how they all interplay is really pulling the deal together.
Because they do have all weightings. Now yourself, and yours is probably quite challenging. I find this interesting because you had an overseas company. You were over in, was it Malaysia?
India.
India. Yeah. How does that come into, what was it like having to buy overseas and then sell overseas?
Each market or each city, each town, each country has its own particular peculiarities, and you just learn to adjust to them.
But when you were buying and selling, even though it's overseas, there is still some commonalities of business that you've picked up along the way that you know that are important, say for someone, let's say, preparing the business for sale.
Yeah, preparing a business for sale is a whole nother conversation, and probably one best had with the business broker.
We should do that, shouldn't we?
Yeah. The business brokers, those guys play a really important role in bringing, massaging a deal, getting a deal together between the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
And so they'll play a really key role in working with the accountant and the finance broker and obviously the purchaser and vendor, bringing all those parties together for the deal.
So as the finance guy, who's actually going to get the money for these deals, how important is it for your relationship with these accountants and the business broker to get money for people?
It's actually terribly important, Michael, because you have to be able to speak everybody's language.
And they all speak different languages. I know, I've been there.
Well, yeah. And everybody's got a voice that needs to be heard, and absolutely, it's being up. My experience in having been in their roles, not the accountant's role, but I understand what they're doing and where the value that they can add is, their knowledge. It's super critical. So being able to tease out, knowing where to look and the points to bring out with any of those advisors is really key to help getting the client the best outcome.
Yeah.
So when we did the introduction on that, we came up with, we set the scene for what the client or the purchaser of the business probably needs to consider when they're going into buying the business. So I think the first and foremost thing is that once they need to take a step back and do a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats kind of analysis, and a competitor review. That's the first thing. And if they're happy with that and they move on to the next stage, the next critical thing is the cash flow forecast. Now that's when they can pull in their accountant and make sure that they've tweaked that and kicked the tyres on that, make sure that that's robust. When they've got the cash flow forecast, then they can come to me as the finance broker and we can strategise the best way to pull together the deal. So at that meeting, they would have brought along, they would have perhaps been for an initial visit at the business. They'll come away with the hard numbers that you spoke about before, the stock, the plant and equipment, knowing where their costs are and have a feel for the dynamics of the business. And then the business broker will be supplying me with the historical performance of the business, the accountant version, and from there then I would go to work and come up with a proposal on the optimum way to structure the deal.
Because it is quite, like we've been both through this, so I'm probably speaking a little bit with questions that I've probably already been asked myself. But the lending institutions, I won't just say banks because there's many lending institutions now that are going to lend the money. What depth do they look at the numbers? I mean, do they really look to see what the say long service leave commitments are in the business that people are buying into. Are they looking at whether superannuations are all up to date? Do the lenders want to know that, or is that done before they get the numbers?
The lenders will be verifying all of those facts.
Right.
But typically, the business, if it's on the market and has been for sale, then they would generally have cleaned up any of those.
Yeah, all those outstanding things.
It should all be quite clean. But then the checks will be run to make sure that it is. But essentially, they're all on the balance sheet, and we've got assets on one side and liabilities on the other, and we weigh those up.
I know when I was selling my last business before we went to media, and one of the things that cropped up, and it did literally crop up because we're busy running the day-to-day, before the sale actually ended, was leave entitlements.
Yeah.
It jumped up, and I was like, honestly, I'd never even, because we were just used to, you're on holidays, pay it. But we had staff, and they went, hold on, if we have a look at these leave entitlements, they start to add up.
So the business broker typically would have presented the buyer with these facts, and they'll say, if we're selling it for this amount and we've got this much entitlements, then we will reduce the sale price accordingly. Yeah. So typically when the deal gets to me and then I'm organising finance, all those problems pretty much have been identified and sorted out, and my job will be, with buying a business, there's always goodwill as a component. Yeah. Goodwill being the perpetuity of the business as it runs into the future. How much profit is it going to deliver? Above and beyond what are the hard core assets in the business. So if there is a goodwill component of, say, $200,000, I can't get finance for goodwill.
That's an interesting point, because I know when I went through with my business brokers, and I know you deal with them as well, they were very diligent on that point, and they were trying to ascertain how much they're going to put, I think their terms was weighting to goodwill, and they were trying to say, well, how much do you really want? So they were trying to justify what I wanted, and well, not justify, but quantify it.
Yeah.
Yes, there's that much stock, there's this, there's that, this is what's, and even down to what sales are on the books to what income is going to come in that I wouldn't be entitled to after the sale date. They were still measuring that. But they're saying that was one thing I was warned about, the goodwill. The expectations of some businesses is, I want this much. And they said, it's a difficult thing to sell.
Yeah. So if we bring it back to the finance question, I'm only dealing with the final number. It's like, I've got to come up with $100 to purchase the business. Yeah. And it's the $100, Andrew, is made up of property, plant, goodwill, stock. Yeah. In varying proportions. It's different each deal, it's quite different. My job is to come up with that total number. So I'll look in at the ingredients, whether it's property, plant, equipment, it could be invoices that the client is making, it could be EFTPOS transactions for the last 3 months. If we get proof of that, then I've got ways to substantiate to lenders of the quality of the cash flow, and I can potentially raise funds on the back of that. So whilst I say I can't finance goodwill, I can to some degree, because goodwill is the ongoing cash generating nature of the business. Yes. So if I can prove that, then I can actually finance some proportion of goodwill.
As someone involved in the which is a really critical component, so the accountant's doing the numbers, the broker's doing his stuff, when should you involve someone like yourself in these discussions? Is it virtually from, well, let's talk about it, and you have relationships with your clients anyway, but new people, is it, well, I've got this concept in my mind, look, we're looking at doing this. Is that when you get involved? Do you say, well, wait till your accountant's done the numbers and the broker's done all this stuff, then I'll come and run my eye?
Typically. Because otherwise, if you don't know what the business is going to be purchased for, then I'm potentially just working on a theoretical number. Yes. So once I've got something solid to work on, here's an offer to purchase and buy your business. They give that to me and say, off you go, Andrew, see what you can do with this. Yes, yeah. In some ways. Having said that, if it's quite a large transaction, or we've done it a few times, then we've probably built up a bit of a rapport beforehand. The accountant and I, perhaps, or the tripartite group, and so. But the real hard work starts when the offer and acceptance is drawn up.
I was asking you about the different types of businesses, and you're saying, why don't we go and ask a business broker?
Well, we should do that. That's, that question's beyond my zone of influence.
Yeah.
There is some businesses are easier to sell than others, and some are worth more or less than others. They're great questions that we should be asking a business broker to get the insight on.
So
my job's simply to just get the deal,
get
the money done.
Show me the money. So stay tuned, because we will, come back to the next episode. We'll take the cameras out and we'll a couple of business brokers, and and we'll ask some of those questions. Yeah. So the money man.
Well, I suppose if we're really to try and wrap everything up, what we've been chatting about. It's that they need to create strong relationships with a good accountant.
Yeah.
If they don't know of a good business accountant, I certainly have quite a number of accountants that I work with regularly that I can recommend them to, because, as I say, it's different from regular tax accounting.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just coming out of the PAYG world and looking at doing this, then it's really important that you get the right support there.
Yeah.
When you're contemplating, or if you're looking at a business and you haven't yet put the offer and acceptance in, and you want to just bounce some ideas, I'm happy to absolutely have the conversation over the phone, or exchange a few mails, and have a chat about how the ease, so that we could start massaging. That conversation is a good one to have before putting in the offer and acceptance.
Yeah.
As I explained earlier, there is a number of ways in which the accountant and the finance broker can get a better deal all round for everybody. So I suppose some of the tips, though, would be valuable to those that are contemplating buying a business would be start an ABN, get a company, shelf company, and start an ABN. Even if you don't know what you're going to be doing, having that in your name, aging, as it were, on the side, is very important. It helps to show continuity of business. It helps being able to raise finance in the future that much easier. So it's buying a company, even though it's not doing anything. Another idea is get familiar with the accounting cloud accounting packages.
Yes.
Because there's so much new stuff happening in that space. A lot of old businesses haven't yet adjusted to and using these types of tools.
Yeah.
And there's some amazing things happening in that, where that little bit of insight might help you when you're looking at buying a business, going, that business hasn't got this, which I can cut out half a person or a person's wages out of the business to lower the costs, and so that makes it a more attractive. That's a value that you can add to the new business.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, then I'm just thinking, wow, you're looking at business and already can identify growth or savings before you've even gone in there.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, so that's just an idea for looking for that kind of value. Look at your credit report online and make sure that there's nothing nasty hidden there. We never know when things sometimes get put on.
True.
We don't know what we don't know, right? So just go there. If there's something that can be cleaned up, clean it up, just so that it doesn't become a problem later.
On that one, Andrew, someone that is not in your world and go, oh, how do I check that? Can they give you a call and maybe...
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Happy to help.
Great. We'll
happy
give the details at the end of the show.
Yeah, happy to help. Going back to that, just establishing a good relationship with your accountant and the broker. As I say, happy to introduce if needs be.
Yeah. I think there's some great advice. I like the idea, and with the accounting, one thing I will say about the cloud accounting software that we're both, they actually even have business advice that well, not advice, they don't call it advice, so they're very careful, but suggestions, and they give you guidance on things to look for, as well as running, because it's online, as well as having the actual package. They're quite often having forums that you can join and ask questions of as well, haven't they?
Oh yeah, look, yeah,
they're terrific.
Tips on running businesses could we could spend weeks, days, and weeks and months on that kind of thing. Certainly, those that are new to the world of self-employed definitely have got quite a lot of need to be open and to learning, and joining groups like that is a great way to help do that.
I think just as a wrap up, because of your experience as well as just the finance side of it, but just in general terms, someone approaches you and they said, look, I'm going to buy this business, Andrew, and you're well experienced, or you've had big businesses, you've bought, sold. When they sit in front of you, do you give them any guide? Do you actually have any advice for people who've gone?
Often, actually. I'm learning all the time, so I'm learning things about what my other clients are doing, but no, it's I really enjoy working in those types of situations. So absolutely, I love being able to share that with them.
And that's the one thing I did want to make the point of, because I know you love doing that and you're very open to it. So it's almost like, wow, I'm getting this. We can't say advice for legal reasons, but at least you're getting experience and someone who's been there, done that, not just someone who's done a finance broker's course and gone, hey, I can lend you some money. I think that you get, that knowledge that you don't get anywhere else, I don't think you can put a dollar figure on it.
You can't, but I think maybe in a previous conversation that you and I've had, I don't know, I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's something like they were going to do it make a purchase in the wrong structure, or it was going to cost something like, it was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix this problem up. And things like being ready, foreseeing the problems down the track and putting in place strategies for that back on day one. Preempting things is just so critical in preserving the wealth that that you're building, that you're working towards.
That's the advantage of having someone with an analytical mind. Foresight and experience, it's absolutely sensational. And I really enjoyed the conversation. What's the best way for people to contact you? Is it email? Is it your phone number? Is it your website?
So they can contact me on my mobile number, which is 042 775 735, or they could just email me, and they could find the best email like on the website, which is www.pacificfinance.com.au. I'm on the website, or my personal email address, andrews@pacificfinance.com.au.
Fantastic. Once again, thank you for that. And if you are looking at buying or selling a business, have a chat to Andrew. You might just go, oh my goodness, I've saved or made more money.
That's it, that's the idea.
That's the idea. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Michael.
And don't forget, tune in for the next time. We'll go to that business program.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll ask him the tough questions.
Yeah.